Hi, I'm Abby. I have a lot of records, and this is Vinyl Monday. So welcome back, or welcome if this is your first time here. Vinyl Monday is the series where once a week I sit down and just talk about a classic album I love. If 20-minute episodes aren't your thing, don't worry. I also do Vinyl Monday in 60 seconds, both here on my channel and over on my Instagram. After a long time away from my usual subject matter of the 60s and the 70s, a whole month away actually, if you count last week's episode, Souvlaki 30 Years Later, I am making my big return to my usual subject matter with one of the defining records of the Summer of Love. And fun fact, this was actually the album I was supposed to start YouTube Vinyl Monday with. I had the episode half written out, but I chickened out at the last minute, held off a week, and kicked off what you know as Vinyl Monday with, of course, Their Satanic Majesty's Request by the Rolling Stones. I may have chickened out at the last minute, but here it is now. This week's album is Surrealistic Pillow by Jefferson Airplane. Congrats to those who guessed this one. Remember, if you want to play along, all you gotta do is check out my community tab. That's where I post my hints for what next week's record is gonna be. I realize over the months I have posted hints that would have accidentally hinted to this, and every time somebody guessed Surrealistic Pillow, I had to be like, ugh, I want to tell you it's coming, but like I can't. So here's Surrealistic Pillow. So sorry for all the false alarms. Let's get this plastic off. So my copy is a reissue. This is a stereo repress from 1969. I'm very rarely picky about how my albums sound. That is, unless they sound especially bad. And I'm gonna be real with you. This is one of those times. Early runs of Surrealistic Pillow in stereo are rough. This sounds gnarly. This is one of those few times that I'll be picky about stereo versus mono, and whenever I am picky about it, I seem to be wrong about it. So let's talk about this cover art. This photo was taken by Herb Green at the Matrix Club in San Francisco. This was a very famous club open at the heyday of the Summer of Love, which Marty Balin of Jefferson Airplane actually co-owned. Chances are your banner up at the top is either pale pink or bubblegum pink like mine. And if I'm not mistaken, this cover was designed by Marty Balin too. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I couldn't find much information to corroborate that. But on the back cover, we have this awesome collage of all of the band members. This is the photo shoot that produced that iconic photo of Grace Slick giving the middle finger to the camera. On Surrealistic Pillow, we have the classic lineup of Jefferson Airplane. Starting on the top left, we have Jack Cassidy on bass and rhythm guitar. In the center, Grace Slick on co-lead vocals, keys, and recorder. And on the right, Marty Balin on co-lead vocals and guitar. On the bottom left, in the groovy sunglasses and striped shirt combo, which is making me think of like Andy Warhol or Bob Dylan, we have Jorma Kaukonen on lead guitar. In the center, we have Paul Kantner on rhythm guitar, lead vocals on My Best Friend and How Do You Feel? And on the bottom right, we have Spencer Dryden on drums. For the life of me, I can't figure out why he's the one holding the banjo that says Jefferson Airplane, or why Marty is holding the flute for that matter. Bizarre choices, but okay. Hidden in the liner notes on the back cover, you'll see we have a very special guest on this record, spiritual advisor Jerry Garcia. I've mentioned that little oddity so many times in other episodes, and I finally get to talk about it in context. It's unclear how much involvement Jer Bear had on this thing. Maybe he was a producer, maybe he was more like a film producer and just threw money at the project, maybe he's a guest guitarist. Over the years, Jefferson Airplane has been adamant about Jerry's participation. He's credited on all releases of Surrealistic Pillow, as well as the flight log compilation. Oh yeah, how about I don't open that up and send loose pages all over the place. Surrealistic Pillow was produced by Rick Gerard, engineered by Dave Hassinger. He produced the first 2 Grateful Dead records. There's that Grateful Dead connection, and roll transition. To get a feel for this iconic Jefferson airplane, we must first talk about this Jefferson airplane. This is Jefferson Airplane Takes Off, the first airplane record. Okay, brief break in the episode to say that I'm very proud of this one. I bought this at a Newbury Comics somewhere off the highway in New Hampshire for about $15, only to put it on my turntable, look up the run out, and find out, holy shit, this is an OG uncensored copy. Airplane Takes Off was released in 1966, and there are some notable lineup changes taking place between this and this. Firstly, the lineup change that's talked about a lot less than the other one, Skip Spence. He was the charismatic, ridiculously talented multi-instrumentalist who just so happened to be the OG drummer of the Airplane. He left the Airplane for another San Francisco group, Moby Grape, in mid-66, cut a record or 2 with them. I won't get into the nitty-gritty of Skip Spence's downfall in this video for the sake of brevity and sensitivity towards the subject. Just know that it's very similar to Syd Barrett's story, but like, way worse. Skip recorded just one solo album, and it's beautiful. He plays almost every single instrument on it, if not all of them, and it's just a beautiful record. If you like Nick Drake or Tim Buckley, you're gonna love Or. The second lineup change, Signe Anderson. She established the Airplane's signature male-female vocal duo thing, and with her, the Airplane were the first house band of the Matrix. In early '66, Signe discovers she's pregnant. After giving birth in the summer, she comes to the conclusion that she can't be both a working musician and a mother. It's hard to imagine now with artists taking their children on tour with them, and even Joan Baez performing Woodstock pregnant a few years later. But it was a very different time. I think it was Michelle Phillips who pointed this out, and I love this observation. The 60s were a lot closer to the 50s. The departures of Skip and Signe leave a huge power vacuum in the Airplane. They find a replacement drummer pretty quickly in the form of Spencer Dryden. He's actually a jazz drummer who, again, just so happens to be in this folk band. While Marty, Jorma, and Paul are strong enough songwriters on their own, there'd be something undeniably missing from the performances without a frontwoman. Enter Grace Slick. Few lineup changes, if any, have changed the tides of rock and roll history quite like Grace Slick joining Jefferson Airplane. The only other one to this caliber that I can think of was David Gilmour joining Pink Floyd to replace Syd Barrett. People love to play up the fact that Grace was a fashion model before being in Jefferson Airplane, and she was. But make no mistake, this isn't like a Patty Boyd type suddenly joining a counterculture band out of the blue. She was with it for a long time before this. And she had a group before them too. The Great Society. This was a family band with her husband Jerry and his brother Darby, but when the family band started feeling a little bit too much like a family band, Grace knew she wanted out. Grace joins the Airplane specifically to fill Signe's shoes. She's sought out because she sounds like Signe. Signe played her farewell show with the Airplane on October 15th, 1966 at the Fillmore. Grace was originally signed on for $750. I didn't translate this into today's money. Sorry, I usually do that. She performed her first show with the Airplane the night after Signe left. In a very short time, Grace transforms the Airplane completely. One of the things that I love about this group is that it was very much shaped in the image of the women who were in the band. And now that Grace is here, this is Grace's airplane. Grace took 2 songs with her when she left Great Society. She took Somebody to Love, their single written by her brother-in-law, and another little tune called White Rabbit. But this is not the White Rabbit you're thinking of, I promise. Once upon a time, this song was very different. Great Society White Rabbit was this driving psych jam inspired by Indian music. Grace brings the song to airplane rehearsals, and they totally rework it. No, White Rabbit is not about drugs. Well, yes, of course it is, but also no. Yes, but no, not in that way. When asking Grace about White Rabbit, she does mention listening to sketches of Spain over and over and over again while whacked out on acid. But the root of the song, Feed Your Head, right? It's a general call to expand your horizons, to educate yourself. The world was a scary and confusing place to be if you were a teen in 1967. Feed your head means everything from take drugs to read books, make your voice heard, go to 11, get into philosophy, learn an instrument, make art, write bad poetry. Basically, it means don't be afraid to be curious. That's why Grace used Alice in Wonderland as a vehicle for White Rabbit. It's this story of curiosity. Changing the world on a macro scale starts on the micro scale. It starts with learning yourself. I don't know, that's just a fact about this song and this record that I love sharing with people. Another one that I love to share is, according to the airplane's tour manager and Marty's roommate at the time, Bill Thompson, Plastic Fantastic Lover is about a TV? Okay. Surrealistic Pillow was recorded across 13 days in November of '66 at RCA Victor Studio B. My Best Friend, a tune written by Skip Spence, was released as a single in December to kind of buy them some time, keep the first iteration of the Airplane and their first record selling, while the new Airplane is finishing up the second record. Their influences for this album included Miles Davis, John Coltrane, the folk scene that the Airplane once occupied, and the burgeoning interest in Indian music amongst Western musicians. This made landfall in the US with guys like Iron Butterfly and the Quicksilver Messenger Service, as well as Jorma Kaukonen. Jorma writes a 2-minute guitar piece inspired by sitar playing, using the Piedmont blues style. Please forgive me if I'm wrong, I don't play guitar myself, I just date the guitarists. Although I might have to stop that because guitarists are bad for my health. When asked how he learned to play like this, Jorma said, quote, "We didn't know much about harmony back then. Back in the 60s, when anyone wanted to play raga, they just smoked a bunch of pot and started playing away." And smoke they did. While it's of my belief that you don't need to do the weeds or even do the SID to consume or make psych music, yeah, Jefferson Airplane did. They did a lot. As for the album name, just like the band name Jefferson Airplane came from an offhand comment, so did Surrealistic Pillow. As the story goes, Jerry Garcia heard the music and said something like, "Man, this stuff is as surrealistic as a pillow. Man." Oh, I'm sorry, that's just my default San Francisco hippie voice. The track listing for Surrealistic Pillow goes as follows. Jumping in really quickly, there are a lot of writers on this thing, so I'm either going to be color coding song titles on the screen by writer, or I'll just have them in parentheses. Anyway, the album opens with She Has Funny Cars, followed by Somebody to Love, then My Best Friend, next Today, and side 1 closes with Comin' Back to Me. Opening up side 2, we have 3/5 of a mile in 10 seconds, followed by DCBA 25. Next, How Do You Feel? Then the instrumental interlude Embryonic Journey, followed by White Rabbit. and the album closes with Plastic Fantastic Lover. Surrealistic Pillow was released February 1st, 1967. Somebody to Love was used as the promo single. White Rabbit was released as a single in June, and this quite literally kicks off the Summer of Love. To promote the record, the Airplane appeared on the show American Bandstand, and oh my god, it's one of the most off-putting, awkward interviews you will ever see. It's clear that Dick Clark was so far out of his depth with a group like this one, and if the sunglasses are any indication, then the entirety of the band was zooted beyond this mortal plane on national television. Through 1966, if you're talking about California in the cultural zeitgeist, it was Laurel Canyon that got big in pop music via groups like the Byrds. They defined that first wave Laurel Canyon sound that so many labels and their groups would try to replicate. Jefferson Airplane via Surrealistic Pillow was the first group repping San Francisco to break through to the mainstream. They paved the way for groups like Country Joe and the Fish, Sly and the Family Stone, Big Brother and the Holding Company, Cheap Thrills, and another little group, you might have heard of them, maybe not, they're called the Grateful Dead. The precedent was set by Surrealistic Pillow. This album set the precedent for the rest of Jefferson Airplane's careers, really, both together and solo. One of the defining moments of Woodstock was Jefferson Airplane's performance of White Rabbit as the sun rose on the third or technically fourth day. That happened like 2.5 years after this album came out. That's old news in pop music years. They throw out a live version of Plastic Fantastic Lover as a single in '69 to ride on this resurgence in popularity of Surrealistic Pillow. Grace is a painter nowadays. She paints lots of white rabbits, and when Yorma and Jack splintered off into Hot Tuna in '69, they took a few of these songs with them. To this day, Yorma still plays Embryonic Journey. It seems the Airplane would never quite reach these heights again. Volunteers in '69 did all right. This was the record released around the time of Woodstock. But as fondly as they're remembered by Airplane fans now, the subsequent records of this, after Bathing at Baxter's and Creation, didn't sell as well. With Jefferson Airplane so prominent in the mainstream, it was getting harder and harder to hide their drug use and Grace's antics. Jefferson Airplane won the battle of the '60s, but in terms of establishing a legacy and remaining timeless, I think the Grateful Dead absolutely won the war. The Allman Brothers covered She Has Funny Cars, and so many people have covered White Rabbit, including Joe Hawley of Tally Hall, the band that occasionally comes up when I mention the Beatles, yeah. His cover of White Rabbit is kind of the perfect closing track to his very bizarre rap album. Anyway, God, I lost the plot in a big way that time. What do I think of Surrealistic Pillow? Before I say anything on Surrealistic Pillow, I will not be going into detail on White Rabbit. Everything that can be said about that song, I feel, has already been said. It helped define the psych genre, the end. I will be talking about White Rabbit in relation to other songs on Surrealistic Pillow. Going in, this was one of my big 6 albums when I was first discovering the 60s and 70s. My big 6 were this one, Layla, of course, Joni Mitchell Blue, Pink Floyd The Wall, Are You Experienced, and Led Zeppelin 4. I really couldn't have picked a better 6, honestly. I got psych, I got the blues, I got folk, I got The Wall, and I got the epitome of the San Francisco sound in the 60s. Listening to this thing back, I'm honestly not sure why it's considered a cornerstone of psych rock, except, of course, for the slick tracks. When I think of psych, I think Stroll On by the Yardbirds. Going on record to say that is my definitive psych song. Not She Has Funny Cars or My Best Friend. If anything, I'd call Surrealistic Pillow a folk record. There's a lot more tracks that lean this way than the 2 or 3 psych cuts. Whatever genre you decide to file this under, its sound is so distinct. I really dig this production, but it makes me wonder, was Jefferson Airplane's Achilles heel that they captured the feeling so well? This thing is very much a product of its time. Case in point, the recorder on How Do You Feel and Coming Back to Me. It's become a cliche at this point. The communal San Francisco vibe comes out in a big way when you remember Jefferson Airplane had 4 vocalists. There's only 3 on Surrealistic Pillow, but yes, Yorma does sing on other Airplane tracks. Marty has this dramatic flair similar to the way a character actor on stage would. He really emphasizes those consonants to propel the vowels forward. Think fun nicotine from 3/5 of a Mile. Paul has that same warmth that Marty does, but it's a little more subdued. How Do You Feel is tender and sweet. And then Grace with her full, smoky tone. So rare. You usually only get one or the other, but Grace had both. And she had incredible vocal control. White Rabbit is the obvious example of her being a master of dynamics, but we can't forget Somebody to Love. And even her backing vocal stuff. With so many voices and so much room to breathe in the production, there's a lot of negative space there. Surrealistic Pillow transports you to so many worlds in such a short runtime. This thing is only 33 minutes long. I'm pretty sure that takes the cake for the shortest album I've covered on a Vinyl Monday. If I can find it, that's not right. I think it takes the crown from Cheap Thrills. This is like 4-ish minutes shorter. You're in and out of here pretty fast. But we take so many turns through those 33 minutes. Oh, my best friend. What on earth is this? It's unlike anything else on the record, probably because Skip Spence wrote it. As cute as it is, I feel like it would have been a better number for this Jefferson Airplane. Then you have Today, which is ghostly. It's the best harmony vocal on the record, I think. I sing that instead of the melody. That's how you know if I really like a harmony vocal. Jefferson Airplane didn't know harmony my ass. 3/5 of a Mile does not get talked about enough. For one, it's a banger. It is an underrated banger. It's impossible not to dance to. In the lyrics, we are called to do away with all of the following. People blowing minds, people wasting precious time. One of my favorite lines on the whole record, do away with people climbing on my precious prayers. Do away with things is giving Imagine There's No Possessions years before John Lennon was thinking of that. 3/5 isn't just dreaming away about some idyllic world. It's rejecting anything less. I dig this lineup's chemistry, notably Marty and Grace's. We don't get much Paul and Grace on this record, just on How Do You Feel, which I do love, but I'm gonna talk about DCBA. I keep losing the plot. The way they volleyball melody and harmony back and forth to each other on DCBA is dizzying. Now I can talk about how stunning How Do You Feel is. All the negative space on this record's production really did this song well. It allowed for the space for you to pack vocal line on top of vocal line on top of vocal line and get those nice echoes on the tambourine shake. It took me an embarrassingly long time to figure out that Grace's vocals are doubled, if not tripled. This song has a shimmering, full, bright sound that I wouldn't normally associate with Jefferson Airplane. On this song, we have intricate guitar work by 3 distinct players, the most distinct being Yorma. I really like his playing style. Embryonic is delicate and precise. It's like you've been shrunk down to thumb size and you're riding a dragonfly across a garden and it's warm and breezy at night, and what on earth am I talking about? These hippie records just have me saying the most whack shit. The tonal shift from Embryonic to White Rabbit to Plastic Fantastic Lover is mind-bending. It's the equal and opposite of My Best Friend in the sense that it's unlike anything else on the record, but it works. White Rabbit by itself is hypnotizing, no doubt. There's a reason why those grooves are worn down smooth on every other used copy of Surrealistic Pillow you'll find, but you won't realize just how hypnotic it is until you snap back to reality with Plastic Fantastic Lover. Shifting to Plastic after White Rabbit is just like, what the fuck even was that? Plastic has gotta be one of the goofiest album closers I've ever handled on this series. The slide whistle, the listy, twisty lyrics, like, Marty, what are you even talking about? But hey, wait, is that piano part a callback to 3/5? Just... Cosmetic baby, plugged into me and never ever find another. Sometimes the price is 65. I think it is. As much as we hail the big personalities in Jefferson Airplane, namely Grace, I don't think enough credit goes to the other newcomer on this album, Spencer. He adds so much personality to this thing, from the of She Has Funny Cars, and of course, the bolero jazz thing on White Rabbit. When you consider Grace was a Miles Davis fan, the guys were big on Coltrane, and Spencer was a freaking jazz drummer, the Jefferson Airplane arrangement of White Rabbit makes total sense. The thing I like the most about Surrealistic Pillow as a whole is the atmosphere that it captured. As an enjoyer of the 60s, I sometimes feel like I'm homesick for some place that I never got to go to, while I am not in the camp of, I was born in the wrong generation, meh. I do long for the freedom and the optimism that this place and time had. The world was a lot smaller then. In short, I've got FOMO. Jefferson Airplane embodied that freedom, that optimism, that excitement to a T. They did it to such a degree that they created this monolithic record. Sometimes it seems they couldn't escape the shadow that Surrealistic Pillow cast. In the end, was Surrealistic Pillow the best 1967 had to offer? It's tough to say. The roster was pretty stacked that year. But did anyone else capture the Summer of Love better? No. My personal favorites are She Has Funny Cars, Today, 3/5 of a Mile, How Do You Feel, Embryonic Journey, and White Rabbit. If you want to keep up with all of my favorites from all the Vinyl Mondays, I have a Spotify playlist linked in my description. I update it every week. And that is it! That was the record that I was supposed to start YouTube Vinyl Monday with at this time last year. Surrealistic Pillow by Jefferson Airplane. What do you think of this album? What do you think of this band? If you were alive at the time, do you think that this record captured the atmosphere as well as I did? Leave a comment letting me know. I love hearing what you guys have to say about albums I love. And if you like what I do here, you should like this video and subscribe to my channel. I post new episodes of Vinyl Monday every Monday morning at 11. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye!